Welcome back to Talk of the Town on WHTC, Holland's Cool FM, on WHTC.com, and on the WHTC app for your smartphone. Once again, here's your host, Gary Stevens.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town for this Monday, August 17th. It is the third Monday of the month, which means we catch up with members of the Lakeshores State Legislative Delegation. One of the members is State Senate District 31 Minority Whip Roger Victory from Hudsonville on the other side of our table this morning. Roger, good morning. Welcome back, sir.
Good morning, Gary. It's great to be back on the air.
And if you have a question for Roger, he'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450. Roger's adorning a Fairlife hat this morning. And reason why I'm bringing that up, not because of Fairlife, but because they are doing some expansion. And they got a nice little thing from the state, a nice groundbreaking earlier this month.
Yeah, it was a nice amenity here in Western Michigan. It's something that I've been working on as my career in Lansing as a voice of agriculture and bringing diversity to our state and our diverse agricultural sector. And that is a $500 million new investment coming into the Coopersville area. But with that huge investment, it does overload some of the utilities of the city of Coopersville. One area in the past was the water treatment system. We were able to work with others. My good Senator Bumstead helped with that proposal with the wastewater line that's already in the ground, solving the issue. And we wouldn't have been able to get that new expansion if it wasn't for that wastewater line. And now another issue is a new water line, having instead of having one single line coming from Allendale, this will have a line coming in from Grand Rapids, giving redundancy and better services to the city of Coopersville and also to Fairlife and other companies in the area. So that was some state money to help in that direction, but not only for Fairlife, but also for the betterment of the community of Coopersville. And we had the groundbreaking, and actually had opportunity for the air show in Chicago, and I had my Fairlife hat on there, and somebody said, "Do you work for Fairlife?" I said, "No, I'm just a farmer from West Michigan, but also do the work at the state level." And she was with Fairlife and did the R&D development, and she was very familiar with the project and with the groundbreaking. So it's kind of a up and growing brand. It is owned by Coca-Cola, and but it was developed as a local company, and is one of the fastest growing brands of Coca-Cola and doing well. But sometimes we have to help the communities where these entities are in.
Another agricultural entity that is doing some expansion in Zeeland, our friends over at Mead Johnson with the
huge expansion.
Yeah,
and we're talking expansion. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. But also it's not. We got to. Some of them were focused on this $500 million in Coopersville and hundreds of million dollars in Zeeland. But also we got to keep focusing on our local growers. And it might be, and sometimes we get some issues with Eagle and some of the permitting processes, and we get some smaller meat processors that have almost been forced out of business. And while we're, singing the accolades of these larger ones, if we forsake our small operations in our hometown areas, that is a huge loss, and that's where something I want to continue to keep an eye on and work hard making sure that red tape is and over regulatory control by some of these agencies preventing that happen. I also want to do a shout out to MDAR, Michigan Department of Agriculture. They're on the forefront. It seems like they're very helpful, and it seems like some of the other agencies are the pushback. So we need to get all agencies working to make sure our local producers have a robust opportunity to grow it right here in Michigan.
Now, one of the aspects of a story that's been ongoing in our area that has gotten a lot of play, and we're part of it in terms of getting a lot of airplay on this, is the ongoing litigation that Zeeland Township has had over the Silver Maple Solar Farm. And the reason why I'm bringing it up before, commenting on the merits of the argument there, is a story that maybe is a little bit underlying. Maybe I'm playing it up. Maybe I'm not. I shouldn't be playing it up because it maybe isn't one. But the fact that the Silver Maple people are here in the first place is that farmers in the Zeeland, Jamestown area have had to sell their property or want to sell their property because they're not making money by being a farmer.
Yep. And this is where we start changing narrative by bringing additional called value-added processing facilities. Because if we're not going to compete in the Midwest, because of Michigan, we're a peninsula, and we have a huge issue working against us, and that's logistics, shipping the product out. So what we need to do is grow it here, then also process it, and they're called value added. So we get the value of growing it here, then we can process it here. The farmers will make additional money, so you don't have to be shipping it out. And then also start another entity, the profit center is the value added, and that's why you create the synergy. And if we do that right with our, what we do have advantage of water and also skill sets. Remember, there's a reason why places like Fairlife are locating here. Also, Mead Johnson's and others, because of the auto industry, we have a skill set labor force that can run these plants. And I've talked to the folks at Fairlife, and they're the most efficient facility is the one right here in Michigan, and they attribute that to is because of the talented labor pool we have. That's kind of an offshoot from the auto industry and auto engineering and that component. So that's why we need to leverage that all, because we do not need. I don't refer to them as solar farms. I refer them to those large footprint ones as solar industrial facilities. And it's a shame that they locate those solar industrial facilities on farmland, and we don't, we have zoning laws to prevent other entities from going on farmland. And I think the same zoning should be applied to solar industrial facilities.
Because of what Zeeland Township has done in terms of filing a lawsuit against the Silver Maple entity, claiming that the state law that allows them to bypass local control is unconstitutional. Technically, they can't come to you and ask for support right now, the township, or have they come to you for support on this?
We've had dialogue on this discussion, and there again, it's the township has certain amenities and regulations they work with there, and I voted no against that energy policy. Sometimes people have called me out, I call it the green news scam, but somewhere, I don't know how else you do label that energy policy when we want to shut down perfectly good facilities, such as, there's a lifetime clock clicking on this new gas-fired plant we have in Holland. I mean, that is a state-of-the-art facility, and I know when we were debating that bill, and I brought that power plant up, I said, why would you want to shut down one of the most current, up-to-date, gas-fired, very efficient power plants right in my community, in my district in Holland? And that's how that bill was reading, and there's a clock is clicking on that. Now, hopefully that some brighter minds will come forward, and as that comes to fruition, that can be changed. But the pivot from a perfectly good power plant like you have in Holland producing power, and then try to take out very productive farmland out in the Zeeland area to replace that with, it doesn't make sense in my book.
If you have a question for State Senator Roger Victory, 616-395-1450. The developments involving the Campbell Power Plant, part of it, of course, is keeping the facility open. Part of it is also dealing with the water situation and dealing with that. I think EPA had a hearing at the Midtown Center here about that late last month or earlier this month. Again,
the Campbell plant is a little different story than the Holland plant. Both are that Campbell plant at this point in time. It's critical we keep that operating for our baseload power. As was suddenly when that decision was made to prematurely shut that power plant down beyond its lifespan. I mean, ratepayers have invested a tremendous amount of money over the years to keep that operating for another 10 to 20 years. Then they fell under the pressure of the current time to decommission all these coal power plants. Many of these coal power plants need to be decommissioned, but this was one of the cleanest operating plants in the portfolio in the United States. By keeping this open, offering baseline power before we make some more transition, possibly to some more natural gas power plants, and also with the demand of electricity. If you have not been paying attention, you understand. With a lot of this other data centers and other areas, increase in electrical needs, And while that's going on, it's critical to keep this type of infrastructure going for a period of time. Ultimately, it has to be decommissioned and taken offline. But at this point in time, it's premature, and we need to get a return investment from all that dollars that we spent on keeping that plant update into low emissions levels.
Let me pivot away for a moment on some of these issues that we have talked about and ask Roger Victory to put on his hat as a commercial farmer with Victory Farms in the Hudsonville area, and your concerns about the current conditions in farming. Most notably, we are in somewhat of a drought situation right now, and we've had really, to a certain extent, a rather tough growing season between the weather, between the drought, between the smoke. It hasn't been an easy spring and summer so far for you.
No, as you can talk, I was quite stressed out. I mean, we did have some refreshing showers of rain that helped us out, but in the West Michigan area, we were in a really severe drought area, along with the high temperatures. And because of the diversity of agriculture we have in our communities here, especially vegetable production, fruit production, there was a period of time when the Canadian smoke, those forest fires were going on. There was no bee pollination going on. So we lost about 1 week of critical pollination period. And I can even see the results at the Victory Farms. Some of the squash production, the yields are down because we lost that pollination sector. So you can multiply that with blueberry production, apple production in other areas too. And there's a reason why we grow the product here and along the lakeshore for our more temperate climate. And let's think back to that 4th of July weekend. I think I'm still remember trying to be hydrated and stay somewhat cool and that temperature extreme there. So we had that severe drought going for a period of time. So it was a challenging period of time. But you know what? Some of the crops are looking better. But with the high production costs, these costs have continued to go up. A 50% yield, 75% yield is not going to cut it for profitability. You need to be knocking out of the park with maintaining that 85% to 90 to 100% yield capacity, and even shoot above that there to remain profitable in these competitive environment.
All right, let's go back to a couple of topics that we've discussed in the past, and we got an email late last month, in fact, the end of the month, from the Michigan Department of Treasury. Provided the latest updates related to the 2026 individual income tax filing season, addressed current processing timelines, and outlined steps being taken to improve the taxpayer experience. As of July 28th, the department has processed more than 5.2 million individual income tax returns, issuing over $3.59 billion in refunds since the filing season opened on January 26th. For those who filed before the tax deadline, currently about 145,000 returns, roughly 122,000 taxpayers remaining in the processing queue. Some will result in tax owed, receive adjustments, or be provided refunds. And they're saying, we apologize for the inconvenience and uncertainties these delays.
Not acceptable. Boy, you have got me. Okay. We've been pretty upbeat on the component, but Department of Treasury, get your act together. We actually introduced the language in the bill to actually hold them accountable. The IRS, I have dealt with the IRS. I'm sure other people out there have dealt with the IRS, and it seems to be if the IRS is delayed in giving you a refund, you are actually compensated by the IRS and given a fair interest rate. Somehow, the Department of Treasury, if they're inept, they drop the ball. They can hold your money, and are you compensated for it? That's why we introduced language making sure that if under you are owed return, and it's not those return funds have not been given in a timely basis, you will receive interest on those dollars. And that might be a little catalyst, get their act together, probably get out and actually show up to work, get into those cubicles and do the work. And I'm questioning how much work is being done at home. Is it being managed properly? I have a lot of questions, but I believe one way of solving those questions is holding them accountable. And if you're harmed, and you are harmed when those funds are being retained by the Department of Treasury and not in your pocket, you should be compensated for that.
Now, here's another portion of this press release, Roger.
Oh, you're going to get me all more riled up this morning, huh?
On July 22nd, the Treasury implemented a major upgrade to the individual income tax contact center by transitioning to the NICE or NICE C-phone system. Previous system built on decades-old technology could support only about 30 concurrent connections, contributing to long waiting times, drop calls, and instances where taxpayers connected through to a customer service representatives. Treasury listened closely to taxpayer concerns about these challenges, and C-Zone is a proven modern solution already in use across other department divisions and state agencies. And between July 22nd and July 28th, Treasury representatives answered 10,000 income tax calls, an average answer time of 2 minutes and 35 seconds, an average 6-minute call duration to resolve issues on the first call.
I questioned what area it was, but if it was that 2-minute wait time was not in the 31st district, I don't believe, because the number of people have reached out to my office needing help, frustrating getting their contact through, and that performance level, yeah, you know what? Anyone can do a good press release there. I know what PR firm worked on getting those stats out there, but I would just still encourage get to do the people's work, making sure that get those returns. And if there is money owed to good residents of the state of Michigan, get it issued and get it to them.
Parting shot. This year's processing pace remains consistent with last year's performance.
Oh, I could use an agricultural term on the air. It's
Please
a 4-letter word. You have to beat me out, but it's an
Yes.
agricultural term. I will refer from yes.
We can use our imaginations now, I
Yes.
suppose. All right. Okay. I just wanted to...
But I want to inform listeners. That's why we introduce language in the bill to hold account. Because if we don't hold that department accountable and we just listen to their press releases, it'll be operation as normal. It is time to hold them accountable. That's why I'm hoping having a hearing on this bill in the near future and to get this and hopefully get this passed, because I say the Department of Treasury should be no different than the IRS.
Now, you're on I'll use the term crusade with Treasury.
A little passion.
A few years ago, Roger, we were talking about unemployment and the need for reforms. Some say that have done, some say that have not been done. 4 or 5 years down the line from when we discussed this, have the reforms stuck, or do we need to reform unemployment once again?
One area, when we came through COVID, I mean, it was a train wreck. However, before the COVID disaster, we had folks that were being accused of fraud, being accused of being a felon, not by an individual in the agency, but by a faulty computer program. Think of this. And we're concerned about artificial intelligence. Well, this is an example of artificial intelligence going astray and our worst nightmare. Think of it. You were doing your work, suddenly you get a notification from the department, the unemployment office, saying you've committed fraud, and it was generated by some software system that was inept. And in the meantime, they try to get that solved and getting actually in front of a judge to get that adjudicated out. That's where we worked hard on, got that solved, and actually got some compensation for those people who were victimized by that faulty software system.
So that was then.
That goes back to
That was then.
Yeah.
How is it now?
Well, in the meantime, as any state department, there's always work to be done. And as we went through the COVID situation and then also a different administration area, but that's where we continue to make sure that hold the department accountable. But at least at this point in time, we don't have a software system accusing Gary or Roger of fraud, of it's because they have a faulty software system.
But they are accused. No. Let's get to a call. Yeah. Good morning. You're on the line with Senator Roger Victory.
Yeah, a friend of mine heard that Donald J. Trump is going to give everybody up to $1,500 or $2,000 to Americans. Is that true or not?
Wow.
Stay up and listen.
All right. Thank you very much.
No, I can't. I work at the state level, so I can address what we're doing at the state level there, and I would have to allow our federal elected officials to respond to that.
Let's just say nothing's happened yet.
That's exactly.
Yeah, nothing has happened yet along those lines. I posed this question to you a while back. I've also posed this earlier today to Eric Nesbitt. I want to revisit it as we are getting closer to the November 3rd general election. It will be on the ballot, Proposal 1. Should Michigan call for another constitutional convention?
No, it's been a lot has changed since the last time we had a constitutional convention. And I believe I'll be voting yes on that component. As we move forward, we have to be careful as we go in that direction. But at this point in time, our state is in a different position than it was in the last time we had the constitutional convention, and there's some things that we need to be resolved. There's a whole list of various different things. Some are very minute, some are a little bit more major component there. But I always just say, don't be afraid to go forward there, as long as we have not a specific agenda, but how can we move the state into a better place, keeping in mind of the things that we're not in the same place we were back in the 60s and that.
There are some who say, with the current polarization that is going on, not only in Washington, but in Lansing and other places, that might not be a wise thing to do, to call for a constitutional convention, because, hey, if lawmakers can't get together on a budget in nice weather, how are you going to get together on a constitution?
I will push back on that thought process. It's part of the conversation. Give it some credence, but when is there ever going to be a good time? I think no matter where you make that journey in life, you're always going to have some concerns. Oh, this is not the right time, or this or that. But a lot has transpired since the last time we had a constitutional convention, and there is definitely certain things that are we current with the current system today that we're facing.
I will pose one question as a candidate. Oh, by the way, this coming Saturday is the Republican formal nominating
out in Mount Pleasant.
Out in Mount Pleasant. So this is a good time. Maybe I'll throw it this way: it's a good time for the entire Republican Party to, as I say, close ranks after a little bit divisive gubernatorial race.
I've seen a lot of unity come in the Republican Party in the last week. It was a very divisive campaign out there in the primary, but I've seen the different groups that were on polar opposite come together, and we realize what we're facing out there, and it's for the betterment of the state, betterment of the country, and making sure that we have a solid voice, a unified voice going into the November election.
If you need to get a hold of State Senator Roger Victory, you are in his 31st district. The phone number is 517-373-6920, 517-373-6920, or go online to SenatorRogerVictory.com. That is SenatorRogerVictory.com. Roger Victory, as always, thank you very much for your time and your impressions. And if all goes well, let's do this again in the month of September.
We're looking forward to it. Enjoy the day out there. What a beautiful day.
Thank you very much, Roger Victory.
You've been listening to Talk of the Town on WHTC, Holland's Cool FM, on WHTC.com, and on the WHTC app for your smartphone.
We want to thank State Senators Eric Nesbitt and Roger Victory for joining us today on Talk of the Town. Those segments have been or will be uploaded to our webpage at WHTC.com in the podcast tab under Talk of the Town. You can listen or download these segments for free at your convenience. Thanks to Brian Spencer, What's New Around Holland. Thanks to all of you for being a part of our program today. Tomorrow on WHTC's Talk of the Town, we should be getting visits from Holland School Superintendent Nick Cassidy and the manager of Wyherick District Library, Ron Suzak. Following Michael Kastner's NBC News, it will be Lindsay Lawrence's Evergreen Commons Report. For Brian Spencer, I'm Gary Stevens. Thanks for listening to Talk of the Town. Have a good day. And if all goes well, hey, let's do this all again tomorrow.